They told you money would be enough, that if you worked hard, stayed disciplined, and always did the right thing, love would follow. So you did. You stretched yourself beyond comfort just to impress her on her birthday. You reserved the best restaurants for every date. You paid every bill. You made sure to never forget the little things. You dressed well, you acted responsibly, and you always showed up. You thought consistency would be enough. You thought effort would be recognized. You thought love would grow from sacrifice. And then she left. Not for someone wealthier, not for someone kinder, but for someone who, in your eyes, hadn't earned her at all. Someone who didn't try half as hard as you did. Someone who didn't give her nearly as much. And you were left with the question that echoes in countless minds. Why him? Why not me? You may not say it out loud, but somewhere deep inside, you believe the old myth that women are drawn to money, that they can't resist a man with wealth. And yet, even the money you earned through honest effort couldn't reach her heart. That simple equation, success equals love, didn't add up. It's easy to get bitter, to blame women, to say they're emotional or irrational. But the truth is deeper. German psychologist Erich Fromm once said, "Love is not a thing you find in others. It is a capacity you develop within yourself." In other words, love isn't about what you have. It's about what you can evoke, what you can awaken in another human being, not through gifts or status, but through energy, through presence. What women truly fall for is not your wallet. It's that raw, invisible something that lies beyond it. The thing you can't quite name. The thing that bypasses her logic and seizes her instinct. It's irrational. It's powerful. It's what makes her crave a man even when she knows he might not be good for her. That's the power you never see coming, the power of emotional command. And if you don't understand that, you'll keep giving and giving, only to be called a nice guy. Safe, reliable, forgettable. You may have been taught that love is earned by providing. That sacrifice guarantees affection. That being a good man means being the one who never wavers. But you were never taught this. Desire is not logical. It doesn't respond to fairness or effort. It responds to energy. So what is it that women love more than money? What is it that cuts deeper than luxury or comfort? To answer that, we have to first understand something fundamental. Yes, women are attracted to wealth, but not because of the money itself. It's because wealth traditionally symbolized safety, stability, and a future. In a world where women couldn't provide for themselves, a man with resources meant survival. But the world has changed. She earns now. She builds. She leads. And that shift has rewritten the rules. What once made a man attractive, financial security, is now just one piece of a much larger puzzle. The crown of value has moved from material to emotional. And in this new world, the men who win are not always the richest. They are the ones who master the invisible game. That's why some men, even if they're stable and decent looking, still get ignored, while others, men with no apparent advantage, become the object of obsession. What's the difference? Emotional leadership. Today's love is a silent contest, a subtle battle for control of the emotional space. Who affects whom? Who holds their center when the other spirals? Who leads, not through dominance but through composure? Women are drawn to men who are emotionally composed, not cold, not distant, but grounded, calm in crisis, not numb, just unshaken. Think of it this way. Imagine two men face the same conflict. One panics, the other breathes. Who would you trust more? That is what women sense. That calm, that unwavering stillness becomes sanctuary. But emotional control isn't emotional suppression. Every man feels anger. Every man feels fear, but how you carry those emotions, how you express them, defines your strength. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "He who is ruled by anger is the weakest of men." Women feel this. Emotional energy is contagious. Just like anxiety transfers, so does stability. When you are calm, she begins to feel safe. She can let go. She can breathe. But here's the paradox. If safety is so attractive, why do some women lose interest once they feel it? Because women crave not just peace, but contrast. Like the quiet after a storm, emotional variation sharpens desire. A man who is always available, always agreeable, always ready. At first, he seems ideal. But over time, she begins to feel something else. Control. Predictability. And with predictability comes boredom. This is where desire fades. Why? Because the human brain responds more intensely to uncertainty than it does to security. This is called reward unpredictability. It's the same principle behind gambling and love. When something is not guaranteed, the mind becomes more alert, more invested. That's why, as long as she feels she hasn't fully won you, her emotions remain tied to you. But don't misunderstand. This doesn't mean you should play games or be manipulative. It means balance is everything. You don't need to reveal everything you feel. You don't need to chase. Let silence speak for you sometimes. Let space grow even when your heart wants closeness. This doesn't repel her. It awakens her. Sometimes, to be desired again, you have to have the strength to step back. And only a man who holds emotional sovereignty can do that without fear. In every relationship, someone sets the emotional tone. Either you control the climate, or it controls you. And women, whether they say it or not, are constantly testing your emotional strength. They might pull back, delay replies, shift their tone without warning, not to hurt you, but to ask silently, will you stay grounded when I shake things? Will you hold steady, or will you collapse? Most men fail this test. They chase. They panic. They send paragraph-long messages. They over-apologize. They seek reassurance. They become reactive. And the moment she sees her chaos affects your state, she knows you are not the emotional leader, you are the follower. And the attraction begins to erode. True emotional power is non-reaction. It's not about being cold. It's about being centered. It's about being able to wait, to listen, to sit beside her in silence without needing to fix anything. Sometimes, just your still presence says more than words ever could. Not every woman will understand that. Some will ask, "Why didn't you ask me what's wrong?" But this is not about being indifferent. It's about being rooted. The strength not to be dragged into storms you didn't create. Because emotional presence is not performance. It's a silent energy, like a deep well that calms others just by existing. And that presence stirs her instincts far more than any luxury item ever could. Love, at its core, is not about finding someone to heal you. It's about becoming someone who inspires growth. A kind man brings comfort, but a man with vision brings transformation. He sees her not just for who she is, but for who she could become. That's why some men, even when they say hard truths, still remain magnetic. Because beneath the honesty, she senses belief. Not arrogance, not superiority, but genuine belief in her potential. That's what creates a bond stronger than charm or charisma. And it doesn't require preaching. It requires becoming. The man who focuses on his own growth, who moves toward his goals with quiet consistency, evokes that same hunger in others. His actions, not his words, inspire movement. He doesn't brag. He doesn't sell himself. but his presence says, "I am going somewhere." And in his gravity she sees a future. That's what she desires more than money. Not comfort, not luxury, but evolution. And the man who embodies that kind of still power, he doesn't chase, he doesn't beg, he doesn't perform, he doesn't try to be chosen, and that's exactly why he is. His presence bends the room. He carries silence, not as absence, but as command. When he walks into a space, people instinctively adjust. And women, they feel it on a level beyond words. This one is different. He's not desperate. He's not trying to prove himself. And that causes dissonance. She wonders, why doesn't he cling to me like the others? And that question draws her closer. Cognitive dissonance. When what she expects and what she experiences don't match, her mind seeks to resolve it. And in that seeking, she becomes more invested. This is why the man who's always available gets forgotten, and the one who could leave becomes unforgettable. This is not cruelty. This is completeness. The ability to walk away, not out of bitterness but self-respect, is the final power. It's what keeps you from becoming disposable. A man who stays only because he chooses to, not because he needs to. That man triggers one of the deepest instincts in her, the fear of loss, because humans grow tired of what they can control. But we obsess over what we can't. The friend who texts every day is forgettable. The one who disappears, we check his page at night. That's how the mind works. What we might lose becomes sacred. The power to walk away is not punishment. It is protection. You may love her deeply, but you don't rely on her for your identity. You stay because you want to, and that freedom builds more trust than control ever could. Erich Fromm once said, "Love is the courage to give freedom." And that is the deepest paradox of connection. The more we hold, the more we lose. The more we release, the more we are chosen freely. But this cannot be faked. It must be truth. So now, what should you do? Stop doing what you know is rooted in fear. Stop texting long messages just to feel better. Stop smiling when you're upset. Stop chasing validation. Let go of the need to be accepted. You don't need to prove your worth. You only need to live it. Be still. Be quiet. Be rooted. Not to manipulate, but because this is who you've become. Because techniques don't create love. Character does. And love doesn't follow the man who has the most. It follows the man who needs the least. The one who walks in silence and still shifts the air. The one who doesn't demand attention and yet is impossible to ignore. Now ask yourself, what version of you must die so the real one can finally live? Stay powerful. Stay silent. And maybe that's the real work. Not to be louder, not to do more, but to finally stop performing the version of yourself you thought the world wanted. Because somewhere along the way you were taught that love must be earned through effort, that you had to become impressive, that you had to fix everything, please everyone, explain yourself endlessly just to be worthy of staying. But what if worthiness was never something to prove? What if the very thing you were chasing, her interest, her affection, her loyalty, was already yours the moment you stopped chasing it? Because chasing comes from lack. It says, I am not enough, unless you reflect me back to myself. And that is the root of weakness, not in emotion, but in self-abandonment. You lose your power the moment you hand someone else the responsibility of showing you who you are. Women feel this, even if they don't know how to name it. It's not in what you say, it's in what you radiate. You might be saying all the right things, buying the right gifts, being the perfect partner. But if underneath all that you're still waiting to be chosen to feel valuable, she senses that. And that energy, it repels her, not because you're not good enough, but because you've already given up your core. She doesn't want perfection. She wants presence. She doesn't need you to give her the world. She needs to feel the world within you. Your fire, your stillness, your complexity. That's what makes a man unforgettable, not his performance, his presence. You see, the most magnetic men don't win with words, they win with being. Their eye contact lingers. Their silences speak volumes. Their energy commands the room not with arrogance, but with authenticity. They are not trying to be alpha. They are not trying to be anything. And that very lack of trying is power. And when she meets this kind of man, everything in her shifts. She can't explain it. He may not be the tallest. He may not be the richest. But something about him stays with her. Days after the conversation, weeks after the encounter, she remembers his stillness, his confidence. Not loud, not forced, but felt deeply. And here's where most men misunderstand. They think this kind of presence can be faked, that if they talk less, act colder, pull back emotionally, they'll trigger the same desire. But imitation always fails, because women don't respond to the actions themselves. They respond to the intention behind them. A man who ignores a woman to get attention is transparent. A man who stays silent to appear mysterious radiates insecurity. A man who tries to control the dynamic to appear powerful always ends up exposed. Because true emotional leadership doesn't manipulate, it grounds. And grounding is not something you project, it's something you become. So what makes the difference? One thing: inner stillness. Not the absence of emotion, but the capacity to hold it without being consumed by it. To feel deeply without reacting desperately. To desire without needing. That is what draws her in and makes her stay. Because in a world full of noise, she remembers the one who was quiet. In a world full of men seeking to be chosen, she remembers the one who had already chosen himself. And this is where your transformation begins. When you stop needing to be picked and start walking as if you've already been chosen by life itself. Because when you carry yourself like you are already enough, the world reflects that belief back to you. You don't chase love, you attract it. Not through tricks or tactics, but by radiating the kind of peace people want to be near. That calm, that fire, that unshakable presence. And make no mistake, it is rare, but it is not impossible. You build it through solitude, through silence, through honest reflection. You build it by not reacting to every provocation, by not needing to respond to every emotion. You stop arguing for your worth, you stop explaining your value, and instead, you let your life speak. Let your consistency speak. Let your boundaries speak. Let your standards speak. Because the man who knows who he is, he doesn't need to be loud about it. And when she meets a man like this, she feels it in her bones. He could walk away at any time. Not because he wants to hurt her, but because he will not betray himself just to stay loved. That man, the one who can walk away, he is not cruel. He is whole. And wholeness, not neediness, is what awakens love that lasts. So if you're wondering what women truly want, it's not money. It's not muscles. It's not perfection. It's the man underneath all that. The one who moves with quiet conviction. The one who doesn't posture. The one who is not desperate to be seen because he sees himself. She wants to feel something real. And real doesn't mean polished. It means present. She doesn't fall in love with the image you've curated. She falls in love with the part of you that can't be staged. Your energy when you're fully aligned. Your voice when it's grounded in truth. your gaze when it holds both strength and softness. She falls in love with your essence, and essence cannot be bought, borrowed, or built overnight. It's forged in stillness, in the choices you make when no one is watching, in your discipline, in your self-respect. It's the way you carry pain without making it a performance. It's the way you speak without over-explaining. It's the way you stay when you mean it, and walk when it's time. That is the man who cannot be forgotten, not because he tried so hard to be remembered, but because he lived in such a way that forgetting him felt impossible. But here's the truth that most never realize. Your presence is not something you turn on when you need it. It is something you cultivate when no one is looking. It is the result of choices made in silence, of how you respond to failure, of how you speak to yourself when the world isn't listening, of how you carry disappointment without collapsing under it. And that's why women can feel the difference between the man who is pretending to be grounded and the one who truly is. Because real presence doesn't require effort. It is the absence of effort. It's what happens when you've stopped chasing approval and started living in alignment. Alignment with what? With who you really are. Not the version you perform to gain attention, but the version that exists when you're alone. The one who doesn't lie to himself. The one who sets boundaries even when it costs connection. The one who respects his own time, his own energy, his own vision. And when a man lives this way, a woman feels it. Not with her mind, with her body. Her instincts respond before her logic ever has a chance. Because this kind of man doesn't give off the scent of desperation. He doesn't signal that he needs her to feel whole. And that, ironically, is what makes her feel safe to love him. Because love that comes from freedom is love that stays. This is the great paradox. The more whole you are without her, the more she wants to be close to you. Not because you need her, but because you don't. That independence, that internal strength, gives her space to relax into her own softness, into her own vulnerability, into her own truth. You see, you were never meant to win her over by losing yourself. That's not love, that's submission. And no one, man or woman, truly desires someone who gives up their center just to stay close. What she wants, what she feels, is when you hold your center even in love. When you show up fully, but never collapse into her. When you give, but never abandon your direction. When your world includes her, but doesn't revolve around her. That's the man who becomes unforgettable. Not the one who chased, not the one who convinced, but the one who quietly remained himself in a world begging him to become something else. Because women, like all people, want someone they can trust. Not just emotionally, but energetically. They want to feel that when life shakes, you do not. That your presence isn't fragile. That your affection isn't conditional. That you don't flinch at discomfort. This is what builds real intimacy. Not just emotional availability, but emotional reliability. And that kind of reliability isn't built in conversation. It's built in moments. In how you hold silence. In how you respond when she's angry. In whether you need to win the argument or you're strong enough to listen. It's built in how you walk away when you know you should. In how you return when it's right, not out of need, but out of clarity. That kind of man doesn't try to be chosen. He simply chooses from within himself. And that internal certainty becomes his compass. A compass that doesn't swing in reaction to mood or rejection or praise. It stays true. It stays aligned. And women trust that because it allows them to let go of control. It lets them rest. It lets them feel. And in a world that constantly pulls at their energy, that space you hold, where she can just be, becomes sacred. And you can't fake sacred. You can't fake stillness. You can't fake the kind of presence that says, I am not here to take from you. I am here because I already have everything I need. That is what she's drawn to more than money. That is what lasts longer than chemistry. That is what lives deeper than looks. Because the truth is, love, real love, is not a performance. It's not something you gain through tactics, lines, or manipulation. It's not found in proving how valuable you are. It's found in realizing you already are. It's not about trying harder. It's about letting go of what you're not. It's about being rooted, grounded, whole. And from that place, everything changes. Your words become fewer, but more powerful. Your actions become quieter, but more respected. Your silence becomes something she leans into, not pulls away from. And she doesn't always know why. She just feels it, the shift, the gravity, the peace that follows you. Because when you stop needing love, you become it. And when you become it, it finds you, not by force, but by resonance. So if you've ever wondered why the ones you wanted didn't stay, if you've ever questioned why your giving wasn't enough, if you've ever been called a good guy, but left behind for someone less predictable, remember this: what she wanted wasn't more effort. What she needed was a man who didn't lose himself trying to earn her. That kind of man? He's rare, but he's not mythical. He's built. In quiet moments, in hard choices, in self-respect, in silence. He is built every time you say no when your gut says no. Every time you walk away when your value isn't recognized. Every time you stop over-explaining, stop over-apologizing, stop begging the world to love you, and start loving yourself with calm, unwavering conviction. That's what women want more than money. That's what makes you unforgettable, even long after you're gone. And now, maybe it's time to ask yourself one final question. What version of you do you need to let go of, so the world can finally meet the man you were always meant to be? Let go. Stand tall. Say less. Be still. And watch what happens when your silence speaks louder than anything you could ever say. Stay powerful. Stay silent.